Hello.
Hey.
Welcome to another episode of Our Years. I'm Reema.
This is Barry.
And today we have two very exciting guests on the pod. We have Nidhi, who is an artist exemplar. I don't even know how to describe Nidhi. So she's a realtor by day, but singer, songwriter, rapper, lyricist. Anything I'm missing by night? Actor.
Yeah, all these things.
Wow.
Multifaceted.
And then we have Simi, who
Hello.
is cybersecurity professional by day, but actor, rapper, songwriter?
Songwriter, lyricist, actor, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And now, recently, as of 1 year, a business owner.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Huge.
Yeah, so very talented women on the pod today. So,
Thank you.
very excited to have you here. Thank you for making the time.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay, let's dive right in. So, you obviously have many talents and many projects that you're into. And I think the last time, or like as we've gotten to know you, you guys are really leaning into your passion projects, right? So what was the trigger at which you were like, okay, especially with rap, especially with music, because that's how I got fascinated with y'all. And we've been seeing your videos, and it's really cool to see South Asian women in the rap scene, especially in the SF Bay Area, where that's not the norm. So what was the trigger for both of y'all to lean into your passion projects?
So for myself, there was a particular incident, I feel, which kind of triggered the creativity in the direction of rap and songwriting specifically. So we were out and about, me and Simi in LA, and we just witnessed like a social injustice essentially, and somebody who was trying to publicly preach a narrative that we did not agree with and trying to impose it on other people just very uncomfortably. And it was at a point in time where there were a lot of protests happening worldwide about a very specific situation. And in the moment, we weren't able to voice our thoughts or our opinions strategically or just statistically even with the way that we would have wanted to. And it just felt so discomforting and like, oh my God, that moment when I feel like I should have said something or I could have said this, and you can't stop ruminating about it and thinking that was my point in time where I had a voice in a place where other people being affected by this issue don't, and I could have said something and I didn't. I did not know what to say, how to say it. And I could not stop thinking about it. And so she had gone for dance practice that night, and I was alone in her apartment, and I was trying to distract myself, but it wasn't working. And I kept thinking about it. And I think that was a point in time when me and her had been listening to more rap music and really connecting with the power of these rappers and their lyrics and their stories. And so for some reason, when I was having all these thoughts and writing it down, it just came out, it flowed out in the form of rap lyrics. So that was just really interesting. And then I showed her this one verse I wrote, and she said, oh my God, like we have to produce this. We have to turn this into something so tangible because these words are so powerful. We need to expand on it and make sure other people hear this message. And that in itself felt so empowering. And I think also having each other as a team, she was my constant motivator. She was like, Nikki, every night, let's work on the song. Let's work on the lyrics, work on the production. And even when I felt like I didn't have the energy, she brought the energy and she brought the motivation.
I love that.
And that's kind of how all of this started. And ever since then, whenever I have a thought or an emotion, or I'll just be in the car and I'll say something to her just so funny, and then we'll be like, oh, that's a lyric. So that's kind of how it started, and now that's just kind of the way that my mind thinks. I've always had a creative mind. I've always loved drawing. I've always loved like drawing fashion, drawing landscapes, just writing random things. I used to write sketches for a little point in time, comedy sketches. And so it's been really cool to sort of combine all those interests into specifically rap lyric writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Were you thinking about doing that for a while? You were getting emotional.
I'm getting so emotional because we are each other's rock, and we've been through a lot of hardships, a lot of great moments in our life. And I'm just so lucky to be able to share that with somebody that I love so much and that understands me, not from a place of judgment, from a place of growth and wanting me to succeed in the most healthy and positive way.
yeah.
I thank you for that, girl.
Thank you.
You guys are so sweet. What's the age gap between the two of you?
Like 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So growing up, it was very different
Yeah.
for both of us. So the time that when I went into high school versus when she went into high school, so many things had changed in our community.
Yeah.
And even conversations, topics, which you can and can't say, right?
Right.
And so we grew up in a sense where we were also kind of torn apart from each other, even by teachers. I don't know if you guys have heard of Kumon, the after-school math reading center.
Talking to Asians.
So that brought a lot of toxicity because even our teachers there would sometimes try to pull us apart and say, well, you know, if she's doing calculus at this age, aren't you embarrassed? You should be doing it at this age.
Oh.
Yeah.
But we grew through the pain. And it was actually during COVID. That's what brought us together. She was, and if you want to tell the story as well.
I came home my freshman year of college from spring break, and I stayed for a year.
She was only supposed to stay 1 week.
Yeah.
And she ended up staying a year because at that time, people started quarantining, airports started, you know, shutting down.
Right.
And we were like, oh my, this is a long time because we haven't been together in so long.
And it was just the two of us. So our parents were in California, and I was visiting her in Minnesota. And so it was interesting because we were also in our childhood home living together.
Oh, without your
But
parents.
I was paying rent. Let's make this clear. I was a working woman paying rent.
And we learned how to kind of just be with each other as well as be independently with our own thoughts. And for me, I can say that I learned how to, I was getting very, what do you call it? Radicalized by Berkeley. I was getting, you know, I loved what I was studying, but I noticed
What were
that
you
I
studying?
was, political economy. And I loved it. I loved my teachers. I loved my classmates, what I was reading and learning, all of this. But I noticed that I was getting really emotionally invested in everything that I was learning about, which is great, but I was kind of losing the rational side of me that looks at things very objectively and tries to understand, well, where's the other person coming from? I was losing that a little bit. So she helped me bring that back. And we used to do this thing during COVID, and sometimes even now, where we'll pose a situation and we'll
It's
say,
called, by the way, it's called Devil's Advocate.
Advocate.
Okay.
Yeah. So we
Love
play
it.
devil's advocate for each other, and we try to challenge each other's thoughts and emotions sometimes, and challenge each other to vocalize, okay, if someone presented you this idea or topic, how would you respond to it?
It's sort of like a mini debate society.
It was basically mock trial, right? In the sense, but like in our own home.
Yeah.
Or if we saw something on the news, we would pause. Or even something as simple as a scene in a movie or a TV show. I'm like, okay, hold up. What did you think about this character and what they just did? And then we would deep dive and maybe even relate it to our own experiences. And all that has ever done for us, it's expanded our curiosity and it's just helped us grow. Because I think that when you lead with an open mindset, it allows you to entertain different possibilities to maybe one problem.
Yeah.
So things of that nature. So yes, COVID brought us closer and we are so grateful for that.
We also did, she taught me how to dance during COVID.
Oh my
I
God.
still saw you guys did so much during COVID.
Yeah.
So I would, film her dance videos. So I learned how to do that. And then she would teach me how to dance, and she would film my videos, which will never be released to the public again.
We will link Simi's dance videos though, because I
Oh my
saw it and I was like, oh my God, I want to go clubbing with Simi.
Oh girl, we getting down.
Yeah, but so when you read the rap that she wrote, why were you so energized, you think, to productionalize it or to make sure that other people see it? Why do you think you felt so strongly about it?
Number one, I was there. I witnessed this in tandem with Nidhi. Where these two people were very much, in our face, spreading a certain agenda just based on the color of our skin. And there was another moment in time, simple to that. We were just on a university campus looking around, talking to each other, and a gentleman from across the street approached us and, started asking us questions unwarranted. And that really hits home when you have these experiences where it is unprovoked and you have to say something, because sometimes silence is not okay. you have to be strategic about when you speak and when you don't speak.
I would say like silence enables the oppressor.
Yes. And so in that sense, I knew she had something to say, and I knew that it was affecting both of us, right? And so sometimes, again, with what you had relayed earlier, in that moment in time, there's 100 things. Oh, I could have said this, this, and this. Well, why don't I just say what I need to say? You know, and how do I empathize with somebody else alongside expanding my own narrative? And so for me, it was important that whatever was in our heart and mind, it's written out on paper, because when it does, it releases so much of that anxiety, that emotion, and it does it, again, in a very strategic way. And we rewrote those lyrics several times, and we tried to place it in ways that made sense, you know, in terms of writing a story. And so, again, for me, it was mostly whatever is on your mind, when you relay it and you have a healthy way to express it, it becomes big and it becomes powerful, and others can relate to it. Because we also noticed not very many people in our circle were talking about some of the things that were affecting our community and even our friends. And so a lot of our friends did feel alone. So we thought to ourselves, well, we are an ally in that nature. Let me do something that I can do in my own way and use our platform as an artist to, again, help you, you know, and not necessarily to overtake somebody else's voice, but to let them know that we are also here and you are not alone. And so from that, we've just kept expanding, right? And anytime she shows me a lyric, I'm like, girl, that hits home. And I don't know if you're willing to share some of your lyrics, but for me, one of the songs that came about, and you may have heard of it, Rima, it's called Papa Kehte Hain, right?
Okay,
and
so
it was
context for people who haven't heard of this song. Papa Kehte Hain is from an old Indian movie, I forget the name, but it's basically it's a story of a coming of age story, and this guy is singing it in his college graduation about like what his dad wants him, like the dreams that his dad has for him.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
Exactly. And so it was a very big motivator for a lot of people. And I sort of rewrote that narrative, not to take away from that song, but to include that line, Papa kehte hain, bara naam karega. And that basically means, you know, you're going to have a very big name in society, and like you're going to it's Roshan my name, which is basically how would you explain
like make
it?
us proud.
Yeah, make us proud, make our family name proud, things of that nature. And then the next two verses are "Par beti ka kaam dekh game tight hai, jo soche bhi nahi wo insight hai," and that basically is essentially saying, but look at it from a daughter's point of view, because in our upbringing, our parents never made us feel this way, but our relatives did, and a lot of our community members did, that being a daughter was less than. And sons were more important in society because they can expand to different generations and just have a long lineage, you know, of your last name. And our last name is Maurya. And so our parents would tell us, you come from warriors, you come from people that fight, that stand up for justice. And so to me, that when I was younger and I was being bullied, it made me so proud. You know, I was like, okay, no, but I'm a warrior. I can keep going. I can keep pushing. And so for me, I have to describe the experiences that a daughter does face, right? When we hear in modern day, the homemaker, right? And going back to being a homemaker, and my mom was a homemaker and she took care of us. But I am also a woman that wants to be a homemaker, but then also work, you know, in that sense, and have both of those realities serve me. But to get to that point, generations of ladies in my family have had to work so hard and are still back in India, maybe don't have those same privileges that I do. So that's what that song narrates. And to me, that's important. But I know that there is going to be backlash, because people will say, why are you taking an already great song and now doing it about you? Well, it's not about me, right? It's about a whole class of women and many women that can relate to this sort of experience.
It's almost like you walk down the street in India and you see Kumar and Sons jewelers or Haldiram and Sons like mithai. But you don't see something and daughters.
Do you see here Patel brothers in the United
Patel
States?
brothers. Why not sisters?
Yeah.
So rewriting the narrative in that sense. And when our dad started his company, I was like, Dad, what about and daughters?
Maurya and daughters.
So it's the what is it called? Just like the words, the letters to his business are basically
Our first
the
name
ladies.
initials
Yeah,
of the ladies
me,
in the
Nidhi,
house.
and my mom.
I love that.
essentially. Yeah. So
All the
it's
women
very
in his life.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yes, you best remember. Yeah, so for us, it's been a very good experience, again, supporting each other because it needs to be said and you need to be able to release on paper. Yeah.
How do you come up with your rap personas? You go by Sherni, which in Hindi translates to lioness, and you go by Bulbul, which is a singing in Hindi, or it's the name of a singing bird. How did you
Yeah.
come up with that?
Oh, girl. Okay, so Bulbul was a nickname that my parents had when Nidhi was born. She was so tiny. She was so cute.
I have this famous line that will go down in my autobiography. And whenever I was in the back seat with my dad and he would be driving, I'm famous for saying, "Oh, Papa, can you turn on the music?" And so from that, they gave me the name Bulbul because they're like, "Oh, she always wants to listen to music. She always wants to listen to songs." And then when this whole rap thing came about and we were releasing our first song, she had her persona all tight. Like she was like, "Yeah, I'm Sherni, hear me roar," and all that. And I was like, I don't know. Like the two names I've had in life are Nidhi and Nikki, and I was like, that doesn't feel right for this project specifically. I feel like I need to, for whatever reason, like reinvent myself or portray a side of me that maybe the world hasn't seen, because they're going to be seeing something that I've never done before, that I've never shared with anyone. So it almost felt like a rebirth, like, what could my new name be? And so for now, at least, it's Bulbul, because I went back to kind of my childhood of also at that period in time. My whole life, I've been so passionate about music in whatever genre, like rock, classical, rap, all of this. I love it. Every single genre, it's on my playlist. And so I thought that Bulbul was appropriate.
And for myself, Sherni was more a mindset because I was living an extremely difficult reality, especially the last 3 years in Los Angeles. And I was a very different person at that time compared to where I needed to be. And Sherni filled that gap in a sense where I thought to myself, okay, yes, I've been tamed. My life has silenced me. People have silenced me. The fear, guilt, doubt, energy. And so it was more of reclaiming that space that has already been inside of me and just projecting it outwards, and again, in a healthy way. And it's not to complain, right? It was more so to process everything that had happened and learn from it, observe those situations, and even have a little bit of a dark humor or twist and those little interesting, weird things that happen in life that make it so great. And I thought to myself, the person that I am right now at that time, I can't do that, but maybe Sherni can. So it wasn't necessarily like, a brand or a persona that I had to think of. It came so quick to me because growing up, I'm the eldest daughter in an Indian American household. And I have felt that I am the one that is always on the forefront to fight for my family or fight for, and fight is such a strong, sometimes negative bearing word, but to show up, to keep showing up. And people claim, those kinds of women are so strong, or like they carry so much weight. And I don't personally like that, because I think everybody should be carrying the weight of their existence and their community, their village, in the way that they can. But it always felt like, because I am the eldest, culture dictated, you need to carry on a so-called burden. Right. And so my parents would call me Sherni. Like, Amisha, they'll say, like, you're always roaring like a share. Like, you're always like, you're up, you're ready to go, you can make it happen. And when they were very concerned. They saw a side of me where I became so quiet, like I was when I was younger, where I wouldn't really be talking. I was very shy, innocent, timid. And they thought something is wrong. We don't know what it is, but something is wrong. And so they were like, what happened to our share? What happened to Sherni? And Sherni came back. She processed everything, and she's still processing, and she's ready to go. So it's not like a, alter ego, for dramatic sense. It's just a part of me.
I love that you guys are so like positive and that you hype each other up, like even through the experiences that you've gone through. And it's like such an inspiration. And I love just like hearing it. And you guys are so passionate about the things you do. I'm sure like obviously you guys have gone through these like personal experiences that maybe weren't so positive. How do you guys personally like overcome challenges that you faced in the past few years, especially going into the music scene, because that's not something typical, especially of an immigrant household?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's good. And it should be dissected. And for myself, I have to admit, right, that sometimes the loudest voices in the room are not always honest. And quiet voices, slowly but surely, behind closed doors, can slowly erode your self-confidence. You know, there are people softly that erode your confidence, they erode your reality, your sense of reality and safety. And unfortunately, that is what I experienced in recent years. And for myself, I did not want to be somebody that's just living in it. I wanted to witness the story in the space without having to just keep being there and being stuck. So I thought, okay, what is it that I need to do? Because I have been taught, lead with empathy, you know, have power, lead with empathy. But for myself, if empathy does not have a spine or backbone, it's a trap, because we cannot allow ourselves to keep carrying the weight, you know, of certain things and negative weight without that harming us. And so I had to stop, because I am somebody that would overgive, you know, and I would over explain myself. I would apologize for things that I didn't do. And sometimes in a situation where things are so abnormal, suddenly they become normal because no one else is speaking about it or nobody else sees the problem. That reminds me of your lyric, by the way. Yeah, you'll see it in the upcoming song of hers. But nobody sees the problem. And so you begin to question, again, your own reality, your own sense of space and self, and wonder, am I the issue? Am I at fault? And so I realized the only person that I can control is me. I'm no longer in those spaces. But you have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to that gut feeling, because chances are, even though there's others that can support you or give you a helping hand and perhaps give you their opinions, and from a space of respect and, you know, positivity, maybe that's not what is best for you, because they're not the ones that lived through it. You did. But on that note, I also want to say that something that helped me get through that and into the music scene was knowing that I'm not alone and I'm not special. And, you know, thinking, okay, this world has been around for so long. I'm sure somebody else has experienced what I have. And then lo and behold, TikTok comes out, and, you know, you do have social media platforms where people are talking about those things. I'm like, whoa, you also experience that? Like, that's just not a one-off experience. I don't have any unique experience at all. Like, that's crazy talk. And so it helped me feel a little bit less alone. And I also realized that, you know, not every negative situation is an attack either. And learning the difference for me was very important, in the sense that I can be hurt, but I don't want to be held hostage to my hurt, because then I will never have any momentum to grow. And so from there, I kept writing. Here's the thing. I've been writing lyrics for a very long time. I've been doing poetry. I'm a dancer. I've been acting. And then, of course, you know, the cybersecurity and threat intelligence field, where that's a little different. Casually. That's really different, you know, and you have to be like on your A game. And it just felt like if you're carrying so much, you need a place to release it. So I did. And I had a lot of intention and purpose. Then I shifted that, and I used my writing to then, again, just like throw out what I was feeling, what I was experiencing, what I saw. And, you know, fast forward, I didn't know what the heck I was doing in the sense of music production, because I told Nidhi, I want to rap, but the space in which I am, the music scene where I was. And this is not for all music scenes in Los Angeles, right? Because Los Angeles is huge and you have different suburbs and you have different communities and a lot of them are helpful. But the place that I was stuck in, it was very toxic and I couldn't see beyond it. And it felt like every new place that I did go to, unfortunately, the experience was, oh, well, how many Instagram followers do you have? You know, what do you do? Well, do you have, you know, a reel that you can show us? What's your Spotify? I'm like, oh, I don't have any of those things. It's all on paper. And I go into a studio and I have no idea what I'm doing, but it's all in my head and I don't know how to translate it to the person in front of me. So I tell Nikki, of course, right? I go up to her, I'm like, okay, you know, I wrote these lyrics, and she's like, you need to turn that into a song similar to you. And we started honestly just Google searching, okay, how do I do music production? Then we got Ableton software. We purchased that. No idea looking at it, these different tools. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're so in over our head. We need a music producer. We go to music producers, several of them.
What was that like?
Girl, they were good. They were good.
They were good at producing what they knew how to produce.
Right.
They weren't, at least the people we met were not good at understanding what we envisioned and wanted and translating that into a tangible product. So then we were like, should we just do it ourselves?
And I could not relate to Nikki. I was like, I want it Indian American, but I need to have anklets in the background, and I can imagine the rain pouring at this scene. It's super cinematic, you know, my songs and the vision that I had. And again, it's all in my head at this point. And I didn't know. Sometimes I would listen to a rap. Rap was the way that people express themselves. I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to be able to do that because I sure as hell can't sing. So the only other way to do it is spoken word poetry or rap. And I thought to myself, what is that? Oh, it's a riser. And we found out like that's what it's called. It's a riser, you know.
Yeah. So we would just listen to songs that we liked. And then we would try to dissect it. So we would listen in the car because it had the best speaker.
And the best like bass, like, you know, boom, boom.
So we'd be on these long drives. You know, we live in the middle of nowhere. So we'd be on these long drives. And in those drives, we'd listen to these songs from these people that we liked. And then we'd dissect like, okay, I think, so that's the bass. And then I think this is like a riser. This is a hi-hat. I hear something here. I don't know what it is, but maybe we can try to like sound match it with something online. And so we learned about all these different instrumental pieces, the anatomy of a song, specifically a hip hop or a rap song, just by listening and learning. We watched a bunch of YouTube videos about mixing, mastering, and we eventually had to hire a mixer master because we were
can't do
in
that.
over our head. But all the production that happen on our songs, we've done all of that ourselves.
That's very impressive.
Very impressive.
So it's been a very cool journey just learning all of that. Yeah, continue.
Yeah, so coming from, again, music production and then for songwriting, I didn't know how to say it in a way that would make sense to the audience because I would second guess myself. Because in my head, I've had this experience, but then it's coming from a place of, will somebody else actually understand what I'm saying? Because it's just taking, you know, like maybe the 5th chapter of a storybook. Well, if you haven't read the first 4 chapters, how the heck are you supposed to understand what these lyrics are? And so every time I would revise it, I would send it to her. Then we did our first open mic, right? Where invited.
Was this in LA or was this in SF?
This was in San Francisco, actually. Okay. And we were invited to do a show. And this is from, you know, a boss that Nidhi knew early on. And she's like, yeah, we're going to be hosting a show. It's in front of 200 people. You want to do it? You want to perform? You want to do spoken word poetry and rap? And we're like, okay, yeah, we'll do it.
And it was months out, so we were like, yeah, we'll be fine. Like, we can do that.
It's like, you know, even though it took us a year to write and produce this song, we can do everything. And we did not realize that on mic, our sounds, again, we have to keep re-recording, right? Because when you go into the studio, you only have a set amount of time, and then that, that's the version you walk out with. So we would re-record at home, and I'm like, no, but this isn't it. Maybe I should sound more aggressive, or maybe I should just tone it down a bit. Like, girl, be calm. What's wrong with you? The bridge hasn't come yet. And so we would re-record, and then finally we sent it in to be mixed and mastered. That again was a new process. But then, fast forward a few months and we're asked to do this project and perform. Well, performance is very different from recording in your bedroom.
We didn't know.
Right.
Like,
You didn't know it was different.
I couldn't project.
we went to, there's a place in the city called Music City SF, which they are so incredible and so helpful to musicians in the SF Bay Area. They're an awesome resource. And so we were like, okay, we're going to perform, so we should probably practice. And we couldn't really practice at home. So me was like, okay, I know this part. We need to practice in a real mic because it's going to sound different on stage. And I was like, oh, okay. So we go and we book a room, and then we're practicing with these mics. And then we look at each other and we're like, oh, hell no, we sound awful.
We could not project. Our tonation was off. My diaphragm was just not working, expanding. And so that took a lot of effort. And we did not know how to run with the equipment that was in the studio. So we had to get a sound engineer. Again, Music City helped us so much during that time when we were prepping. And our friends as well, they listen to the song, they're saying, hey, having that sometimes that pump up, aside from, two friends and two sisters that are working together, having an outside third view, how do we sound? You sound great, keep moving, keep doing it. And then we would record on our phone and we'd be like, okay, so we need to fix X, Y, Z. And eventually, we get up on stage, our parents are in the crowd and I'm nervous, but not nervous from being excited. Like, we're doing this. And the reason I knew it was safe is because we knew a lot of the hosts that were prepping this programming, and we knew what space it would be going into it, and being able to talk about things that perhaps you can't talk about in public in certain areas. And even things I did a spoken word poem on my father, and I was like, girl, do not cry on stage, but if you do, it's real and it's a moment and it's okay. And so we get up on stage, the curtains, they part, we have our tripod set up in the corner. We're like, okay. And then you can't really see anybody except I see my parents. I know where they're seated and they're just looking, like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And I was so happy. Like, so happy. We heard the recording later and we'll get to that. But I was so darn happy.
Yeah.
To have it doesn't matter who else was in the crowd, but our parents being there and my dad recording, my mom like, oh. So they weren't understanding really anything we were saying. We had to dissect the lyrics later.
Was that the first time they were hearing it?
Yeah, it was the first time they heard it. And my mom was looking around the crowd like, oh, people like it? Oh, okay. So this was like validation for her in a sense. Like, people are appreciating, people are responding to it. And for me, that appreciation was, again, seeing our parents out in the crowd. And that is all I saw. And then eventually we started hearing the cheers, like during our songs and when certain verses were said, and during the poems. And we looked at that recording later and we thought, you know what? It's actually really good. But it doesn't, again, sound the same that it would when you record it. So we had to sit with that reality that it does not have to be perfect because the stage performance is so different. Yeah. But when we got off stage, a lot of people came up to us like, hey, I could relate to that. And it was the last people you would expect. It was aunties and uncles, And I was like,
aunties
you guys
and uncles be really supportive of other people's kids.
Legitimately. And I was like, see, Dad, like, Mom, do you see this? Like, does this build your trust in us that we can do this and we are doing it? And I think for my dad, it was a space that he's never been in before. He hasn't ever seen that sort of energy unless it's a Bollywood star that we're going and paying and seeing, a celebrity, right? Or a very famous singer. But when he sees his own two children on stage and the artist community, the networking in the Bay Area, that is just so damn cool for him. And then we did our next performance a week later. It was an open mic at a bar. And if you want to get into that.
Yeah, and that was also really nerve-wracking because it was, it's a stage that's it's had like poetry and rap performances, but it's a stage built primarily for bands.
Okay.
So that kind of messed up our audio. Also,
But
the
that's
audio
okay
engineer was
because
not paying attention.
it feels like the point that you guys wanted to get across did actually go
Exactly.
across, and you
Yeah.
know, like sometimes that is actually more important than
Yeah.
perfecting it on stage.
The actual message.
Right.
And that was validated because after our performance, first of all, our dad was so excited. He was all the way in the front row with his camera again,
That's
taking
so
a video.
sweet.
People were smiling. They're like, your dad is so cute. He's just like taking videos of everybody and you guys.
It's like watching your kids in an anime.
But Christiana had all her kids like do shows, and she'll be like taking videos.
Exactly. Or it's
That's
like,
so
you know,
sweet.
when we're younger and our parents were taking videos of like science fair projects
Yeah.
or spelling bees. I was like, okay, so this is an event for you now.
And it was just really cool to see him in the front row, so excited. And I was trying not to make eye contact with anybody while I was performing, but when I did, I noticed that a lot of people were nodding and they were actually really vibing with the music or what we were saying. They were relating to the message. And so in that moment, it kind of gave me additional courage of, oh, like these people are nodding. Maybe other people are not paying attention. It's an open mic, whatever. But let me perform to the best of my abilities for these people. Let me, you know, scream and shout this message because I know that there are other people that this is helping, that it's relatable for. And then after that performance ended, towards the end of the open mic, I think it must have been like 6 or 7 different people. They came up to us at different points in the night, and they were just like, oh my God, that was amazing. Can we connect on social media? I want to hear more. I want to know where you're performing next. And we learned more about them and their performance styles. And in that moment, it just felt like a really cool community that I had not experienced anywhere, like in LA, in the Bay Area, really anywhere. And it was very unique to experience that in a room full of musicians, all doing different types of music, different styles, genres, and all just being so supportive of one another. Not a single person who came up to us was, you know, had a different agenda or felt like they were not being genuine. Everyone was so genuine. And we still keep in touch with some of those artists today. It's been maybe a year since then. And it's really cool to see them keep performing and them always saying, hey, when are you performing? When can I see you next? So I think that's how community is built. Like going back to your question, I think you asked about, like, especially as children of immigrants, it's kind of a little daunting to venture into a creative field. And how you've mentioned, especially in the Bay Area, this is a very tech-driven, creativity is not talked about in the same way point blank as it is in spaces like New York and LA.
Yeah.
And that's actually been a big conversation in San Francisco about how can we sort of change the narrative on a daily basis and incorporate talking about art and music and creativity in our daily conversations. We kind of, as citizens of the Bay Area, I feel have to make those conversations a part of our, you know, daily conversations that we have with our friends, our coworkers, our families, to change the culture inherently. And after that, I feel people will be even more inclined to do the big things and reach out to politicians and lawmakers and local businesses and big businesses and ask for sponsorships and be able to dare to ask for those things because they see a need for it in their community. The immigrant part, it's still hard.
I'm sure.
It's still hard. I think we've been very lucky that our parents have been so supportive. I think initially they were like, oh, what's this project you're doing? Like, why are you spending so much time on it?
This is just an art project. You're wasting your time. Are you going to be making money off of this?
Yeah, that bottom line, it comes to that.
Yeah.
Like, have they always been supportive, or like from the start when you guys
No.
mentioned? Because I mean, like, as immigrants ourselves, like, right, we know like what our parents want for us, and I think they come from a place of, you know, they want the best for you, which
Right.
is why they have these expectations, and maybe it's not in arts because of just typically it's a little harder to be stable. Obviously not always the case, but yeah, I think they just, you know, come from a place of wanting to support us in that way. So what was it like going from them maybe not supporting you from the start, but then now they're so supportive, standing front row and taking photos of you?
Okay, many immigrant parents are not familiar with pursuing a career in the creative roles or art, etc. They just haven't seen that. They haven't seen an example of it. You're probably the first person they're seeing doing that, and that scares them because you're doing it and it scares you. So
of course it would scare them too.
Yeah. And our parents, I believe, you know, I think I can speak for both of us, they were not really supportive of any, like, why are you reading a storybook? Read a math book. Like, even when we were young, exactly. Read a textbook. Why are you reading a storybook?
Or when we had in English class Huckleberry Finn, you know, Tom Sawyer to read. They're like, what is this?
Like, is this what they're teaching you? But I think maybe what might have changed in recent years is we became adults. And I think in addition to that, more specifically our dad, perhaps, he noticed how important this was to us. We were working on it every night for nearly a year. We were so dedicated. We were going out and finding open mics. We were connecting with different people, having phone calls, video calls. And when he saw that we were putting in the work, and every time we would talk about it, we were smiling, we were happy, or if something wasn't working out with it, we'd be frustrated. And we were feeling all these deep emotions about it. And I think when they saw that, they realized, oh, well, I've never seen them react about cybersecurity in this way.
So much passion for cybersecurity.
I've never seen them act about coding this way. This might be something. So, and then I think the added thing of the performances and the open mics, we invited them to come out. We dragged them out, and they were definitely nervous, but they were also really excited to be there and support us. And I think them just seeing also how other people were responding positively, the community responding, that definitely also motivated them more. That said, they still tell us to like work 9 to 5s and have a stable source of income, which, come on, we live in the Bay Area. Like you kind of need that. You can't escape it. But they also still really support our creative ventures. So
I love that.
And they see movies, they see celebrities, they see podcasts, right? And they say, oh, let me WhatsApp this video to you. So they give us the motivation as well when sometimes we're feeling down. And they'll say, hey, again, somebody is doing it and I'm researching and I'm learning more about this so that I can support you.
That's so sweet.
And that has hit home very hard. Of course, you know, we, as Nidhi said, we do have to work to support ourselves in terms of monetary and, you know, financial well-being. But not a lot of musicians or artists are able to do that, right? And when you are making art and music your whole life, and that is your career, there's a lot of other things that then come into as challenges that sort of hinder that progress. So we are very privileged and very lucky in that aspect that we have our parents and they are more than willing to support us. And apart from our parents, we also have our friends, which we did not know how to relate to them. Oh yeah, you know, I'm doing tech now, but also, are you guys like cool with listening to this song or, you know, me reciting this poem? And they were so wholeheartedly like embracing us with full arms. We tell them our story and they say, we're here to support you all the way. We're going to pop up to your shows. If you want to do just a girls' night with wine, we're going to be there and we're going to come support you just so that you can speak your heart and mind and your soul. And so that has helped us having that community. I think the biggest, even more like what a blessing is when you know you can do it. And I've had, I wouldn't even say imposter syndrome because I hate that phrase. But I have felt like sometimes maybe I don't belong in this space. Maybe I'm not doing good enough. And that self-doubt sometimes creeps up. And I look at perhaps somebody else that in their mind, what they consider success, they've made it. You know, having 7 or 8 figures in their bank account or being married, settling down. Maybe a certain place that
who
they
has
live
8
in.
figures in their bank account?
But people talk about Bezos or, you know, you talk about billionaires that are able to do it, so then I can do too. I need to be there. And if you're not in that mindset of just pursuing money only,
hustle culture,
then it's you're not worth my time. And that's fair, because to each their own.
Yeah.
But I need somebody in my life that is holistic, both from financial, emotional, intellectual, and also artistic and creatively, because that is what means so much to me. So it is difficult, but there's ways to always kind of counteract that by reteaching and relearning. And I know, again, from an immigrant mindset, we are taught, head down, focus hard, work hard, and things will come to you. That's not always the case. You really have to fight for it, and you have to stand your ground and just be present and keep working to it, even though some days it's so darn hard to just like get up on that mic and perform. I just have to keep pushing, no matter if somebody is telling me to just be tame, be calm. I had to pursue what I needed to do, and it's always been a part of me. Storytelling is always a part of my heart. And now what we do is our parents don't understand the lyrics, right? My dad, I'll be showing him like a new production set that we did. He's like, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand rap. And it's like, you do. And we'll pull up our phone and we'll hook it up to the TV and we'll go line by line on what this particular verse means and translating it into Hindi. And they're like, yeah, I get you. And so then seeing them light up, like, I'm like, yes, we need to keep doing it. We have to.
Okay, so now that you guys have started productionalizing your own music and you've had performances and you understand the nuances of live performances versus recording and what you want to get out of both, what do you think you want to do next in the next few years?
For myself, that's always a tough question. I really hate thinking in the long term. I don't have long-term goals. Vibes. No. For myself, I know that what I'm doing feels right and it feels good. The feeling that I get when I'm on stage performing and I hear someone shout and be like, yes, or they come up to me after and they say, wow, I really related to that. Or even our parents just being supportive and motivating us further, like, okay, if you're gonna do this, do it seriously. Like, how can I help you? Okay, maybe have you heard of this? I saw this on YouTube. I saw this on WhatsApp.
The WhatsApp University.
Exactly. So having that motivation from all ends, Simi mentioned our friends also have been very supportive in just offering the motivation to say, hey, I think what you're doing is really cool. If you need support, let me know how I can support. So I think having this, we're really lucky that we've had this really strong base of just community that's willing to support and give and even offer advice, like be very real with us when we ask for it. So for me, my goal is to just keep chasing those emotions and those feelings. Also, when I'm sitting in the studio and at home, when I'm sitting at home in my bed writing a lyric and it clicks, immediately I either text it to Simi or I run into her room and I share it with her. And the feeling that we both get, kind of that exhilaration, the high of, oh, that's so cool. Like, I love that lyric. I love that right now I'm not pressuring myself to think about, oh, how can this be better? Or where do you see yourself in the future? I just really like the joy of being in it and experiencing it day to day. I can't imagine myself thinking of, oh, how can I commercialize this? Like, how can I be the next Eminem? I don't know. I would hate to think that way because I feel like it would restrain me and it would make something that right now feels so like free and liberating, it would sort of contain it. That being said, my goals definitely do revolve around just chasing that feeling, chasing that emotion, chasing the high of a new song, a new production, and also just building more spaces for community. A lot of us creatives, because you see it a lot in the Bay Area, here and there in these different pockets. I would say Oakland specifically has a lot more spaces for people to share creatively, open mics, etc. There's definitely a big art scene in Oakland that can be very supportive. But I would really love to create something for people like us, like South Asian, women, South Asian American women, just getting together and connecting on a creative level, a human level. And that's something that we're seeking to build, just a network of people and just really unique experiences that we can all just sit and relate with.
There was a point in time, there was so much pressure on me to immediately release what I was wanting to share with the world, because I felt this sense of urgency that I was running out of time. So one of two things would happen. One is I would immediately stop everything and just focus on that. But that's not sustainable, right? And I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't sleep. It's just, no, I'm working on my music. And that is not good. That's a sort of negative type of energy than you were giving your projects and your artwork. But I think it's so real for so many different artists. But then another part of it was sometimes I was overthinking so much that I would begin feeling stuck and frozen, and I couldn't do a single thing. Not a single thing. And it was just in my head, but I have to do this. But how do I do it? How do I start? Oh, but I have to fix this line. Oh, maybe I should just work on my production first. No, I have to go out for a run. Like, I should walk. I should exercise. It's a non-negotiable. And it's these constant thoughts. And I was like, okay, let me just take it to Nidhi. This is how I'm feeling. We talk to each other. We, bounce off of each other. So when she's feeling not so great, I help her, and vice versa. And so she helped me out. She's like, okay, just take it one step at a time, one goal at a time, and write what you want to complete today. Maybe it is related to your music or your song, and maybe even not related. Did you drink water today? Did you do yoga? You're so all about Ayurveda and medicine and like Eastern medicine, and talking about you want to do more meditation, things of that nature. That can help you, and it can propel you even better and further. And so that is one thing where I'm the opposite of Nidhi. I feel urgency. She doesn't feel really that urgency. And so we sometimes clash when we're working on a song or a project together and we're collaborating. And so we've learned, again, to bounce off of each other and create a program and a schedule, and sometimes be spontaneous about it, where I'll wake up a Sunday, you want to work on the music? And she'll be like, dude, yeah, I don't know what it is. There's just something in the air. Like maybe what we talked about yesterday, I'll do it. So it's never been like a set plan for me. I don't work that way. My handle is spontaneously Simi. There's a reason for that. Like my life is spontaneous. I don't have really necessarily any hard goals, so to speak. But what I do know is I really want to recreate moments where people are just feeling, they're experiencing, they're learning, they're breathing, they don't feel suffocated. And I want to be able to collaborate with other artists. We went to a show last year. Oh my God, it's already been, the time just flies by so fast. It was last year. We went to a show for an artist called Raja Kumari. And I love her songs. I love the way in which she has so much presence and substance, not just in her own existence, but in her music and the way that she makes her audience feel. And collaborating with sort of the Indian roots that she has with art and dance. It's beautiful. And we go to her show. We bring our mother. It's my mom's first show with us. So we bring her, she's vibing. She's like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's fun. And you have all these different ages and demographics in the crowd. We give her an alcoholic drink. Mother, it's fine. Have some fun. And she's like, okay, I might as well try this cocktail. And we're having a great time. And after the show, we were talking to one of the artists on stage and, introducing ourselves. He asked about us and our work, and he said, you should go talk to her. I'm like, you want us to talk to Raja Kumari? Really? And because a line was forming, right? And people were getting their autographs, hugs. And I was like, should I tell her we do music? And he's like, she's very supportive. Just go. So we get in line, and I get up to her, and I have already prepped what I'm going to say, and all of that just goes out the window. And Nidhi has our lyrics up, right? And we haven't really memorized it at that point because we're still working with the flow. And she has the lyrics up, and we read one verse to Raja Kumari. She's so sweet. She's looking at us with, when a celebrity in our eyes is so humble and wants to hear what you have to say and gives you the platform to do so, even if it's like 3 minutes, which is such a long heavenly time. And we're talking to her and we say, hey, do you mind if, we recite these lyrics? We know you were talking about a particular issue on stage and we wrote about that too. And she says, yes, tell me. And my mom's taking a photo of us and she's so happy. And she says, you remind me of my daughter. We end up saying the verse. And she's like, yeah, this is good. Come back to me when it's done. But this is good.
Wow.
And that was like just another period of, oh my goodness, how do you start from absolutely nothing, right? Just ideas in your head and wanting to do something to tangible, things that you can touch, you can feel, you can just like live and breathe through. And so having my, goal of working with other artists is just so prominent. I want to work on myself, get better with what I do artistically, but then just do it. Like instead of staying stuck and do it. Yeah. To be able to collaborate also with other artists. Yeah. And we have other music influences too. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard of Kashmir, but Nikki met him at a bar in Berkeley.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was unreal. I was sitting, so actually it was so spontaneous because my friend was out with the dude and then she SOS'd me and she's like, hey, you like want to come defuse this? I don't want him to think we're on a date. So I'm like, hell yeah.
Gotta support the girls.
I literally leave another party to go hang out with her and this random dude. And then we're all three of us are sitting at, a table and the dude is like, oh, I'm thirsty. And I'm like, oh, I'll grab us all waters. So I walk over to the water and as I'm
First of all, he didn't grab the water. I was like, he's just telling you, he's thirsty. We'll circle back to that.
Oh, yeah, you're thirsty. So I grab the waters and I'm walking back and I look to my left and I'm like, wait, I think I know this dude. This dude looks hella familiar. And then I come back to the table and I ask the both of them, I say, hey, do you guys know who Kashmir is, that DJ? And the dude actually was like, did some music production. So he's like, wait, yeah, actually I do. And I said, doesn't that look like him? And he was like, bro, I don't know. I just use his music. And then I Google him. Like I'm on Wikipedia and I'm like, yeah, that's him. So I'm like, should I talk to him? Should I say something? And then my friend Ria, she's like, dude, yeah, go talk to him, go say something. So I walk up and I'm like, hey, are you Kashmir? Like the stupidest thing I could have said. I say, hey, are you Kashmir? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I've been following your music since the Cataracts. Like I really love your style of production. It's really inspired me. And he was just so nice about it. He was so kind, so nice. And I got a photo with him and everything. And I asked him, hey, do you want to play shuffleboard with me and my friends? And he did. And I look back on that memory and that experience. And I think this could probably relate to my goals is I look back on that experience. And at that point in time, that was probably months before it had even crossed my mind to start making music or start writing rap lyrics. And I look back on that experience and I'm always like, man, maybe if I had like a reel or something, some product to show him at that point in time, how spontaneous it would have been if I had showed him that. And he was like, literally 6 months later, he did an album with all these Indian hip hop artists in India. And I was like, dang, if I had shown him, like, maybe I could have interned or something. You think about that, like, oh, what if? And so that's why something that me and Simi always talk about is no matter what, just keep working on it. And this is also related to the advice I would give other people is just do it, keep working on it, because luck is not a thing. People say luck is when opportunity meets preparation, right? Yeah. And if I had the opportunity, if I had been prepared, you never know. So I just think back to that moment, and things like that are always a motivator. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what your next opportunity is. And you would never want to give it up just because you hadn't given it your all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that brings me to the point. Like, I think you guys are such like inspirations, and I think a lot of our viewers might want to know, like, if you have any advice for people who are looking to go into the music or art scene or like any creative scene, pivoting from something more like traditional or like tech.
Yeah. I think I would start by saying Nike, just do it. But I feel like that's not advice enough. Oftentimes when people are starting something off, like a new venture, a new project, they have a vision of where they want to be, how they see themselves, why they're pursuing it, etc. And it's at that point in time, it can be a little hard to narrow it down into the steps of what exactly do I need to do, especially if you're like us and you have absolutely no musical background. You don't even know what software to buy. You don't know what like equipment you need. We had to research each and every single one of those details, and it would have been so much nicer if there had been a larger network for us to reach out to. So that's probably the first step, is reaching out to people in your network. When we started telling some of our friends, hey, we're doing music now, you can't imagine how many people came to us and said, oh, I'm interested in that. Can you teach me a little bit about it? So if you even just post on your Instagram story, like, hey, does anyone do music production? Is anyone interested in XYZ? You might be surprised who in your network might actually be working on a project or know somebody who could help you out. So many people have actually been helpful through social media who I've maybe met once to offer advice. That was how we found our mixer masterer. Was a girl I met once. I just asked her, hey, I know you do music. Do you know anybody? So reach out to your network for sure. And also, don't wait for the self-confidence to come to you. I still hate the sound of my voice. I'm still not happy with some products that exist out there, but don't wait for that perfection, because it will never come. You will always improve, but the only way that you will improve is if you show yourself to the world. You ask for the feedback, you are receptive to the feedback, and you keep working, you keep iterating on every product.
Yeah.
And find a community. It's really hard, but the more you put yourself out there, you'll see that community comes to you. And have faith in yourself and trust your gut and your instincts about who is a good partner and who is not a good partner. Just really trust yourself.
And with the work that you're doing, you can get advice from other folks, but if it is in alignment with your core, your value, your character, what you envision, you can do it. And it's not a matter of, oh, I feel like an imposter. It's a matter of sometimes having just enough, like it's just enough of that persistence, that inner fire that keeps you moving forward. And again, we had each other, so we're lucky. But a lot of people are doing this solo and are alone. And I'll recommend, in the Bay Area, one of the biggest resources is Music City. There's Noise Pop. And we went to, and I know that they do this every year, but at the beginning of the year, we went to something called Music City SF. And it was where a lot of artists, entertainers, business owners, entrepreneurs, like you had so many different individuals from different industries that are coming together to support the culture and art. Because in the 60s and 70s, so many things were poppin' and everything was like radical expression. It was that culture, it was that mecca of radical expression. But technology did change it, and for good things, where we have Bandcamp, you have digital streaming, but then also the negative of artists being forced out of their homes, not having a place to live if they don't have another source of income, right? And so many places shutting down, venues shutting down, even after the midst of COVID. So things of that nature, we have to be just so upfront about it, because everybody is asking the same questions, the questions that both of you were asking, the questions that we asked. Everybody needs that. Everybody wants the culture. Everybody wants the music, the art, entertainment. And there's people that are working to do that. But we didn't know till we showed up in a space and just took the chance. And we're like, okay, we found it on Eventbrite. Let's go. Yeah. And we go. And of course, there was some fluff in the answers. Oh, come together. We're making music. Just go to venues. Sure. But what are, entrepreneurs doing that are already in that space? How is technology helping us? Even sports teams and musics. How can we use billboards in the community, not just for technology and now AI, right? Where, again, it was cybersecurity and risk before. Right? So it just keeps changing. But in LA, you'll find that because it is that mecca of entertainment, everywhere I went, I was just so astonished. I felt like I was living in a digital world because every billboard had entertainment. But perhaps we can use some of that to support artists here, right? Like ad space on buses is one option that a gentleman vocalized during this Music City SF Hall. We had Daniel Lurie come in, right? The mayor of SF, like come in and say, okay, these are the propositions that we have, and perhaps we can do more for the community, but we need your help. So there's that funnel that we need to enter, that dialogue, that communication, where we know it's, up and coming. We know that we're doing the work and there are artists out there like us, but we need to foster more execution. We can talk to hotels, right? There's a lot of corporations and also nonprofits and artists, even individual artists like us, wanting to talk to hotels to say, hey, we are creating this community space. We're having an event on this date. Can you sponsor a few rooms and host these artists there? Are you able to do that? Yes. Okay. All right. We'll see. Music City is also just so phenomenal. And I love them for what they have brought to me. And for as much as I've known them and been a part of their space. And they also have hostels for artists as well. I don't know necessarily what the pricing is or, things of that nature, the logistics behind it, but there are places, there are communities, and unless you walk out that door, you might not know. So just take a chance on yourself. And there's most events that we've been to, some, oh my gosh, you learn something. You learn something new from a conversation that has just, you're like, I'm not the only one thinking it.
Yeah.
And we can move forward with it. That's a big thing.
Yeah, for sure. I love that there's like so much fire burning within you. There's like a lot of like this.
Can you see it? Do you feel the heat?
Just like so much passion, and I think it's like such good inspiration. I've said that, but like I think especially in environments where everybody's like hustle culture and it's just like tech, right? It's very easy to get lost in just working and like forgetting about your like passions and your projects outside of work. So I think it's nice to see that you guys are doing that, and hopefully that inspires other people and our viewers to do the same. So thank you so much for coming in and sharing all of that with us.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, for sure. We'll link all of their socials so you guys can have a listen at their creative work. They're really doing great stuff. So hope you guys can see it too. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.